let's start for everybody here, because I know there's a lot of people watching that are new-ish to eminent domain. So let's start by
Right.
defining exactly what eminent domain valuations entail and what some of the different practice variations are within eminent domain.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. Really, eminent domain work entails establishing the fair market value for a proposed acquisition. Sometimes that can be a full acquisition or an appraisal of the entire property. Other times it can be a partial take analysis where the agency is proposing to acquire a portion of the property. Whether a part take analysis, you have to really fully analyze the remainder parcel and being able to really understand how that project is going to impact the property. And that needs to be done in California. So both before and after benefits, and benefits can really only offset damages for California work. Some specialties in eminent domain work could be based on project types, whether
Mhm.
that be railroad projects, water projects, pipeline projects. There's a variety of different possible specialties with eminent domain work.
Fantastic.
Yep. And certainly, just to jump on a little bit of what Angela said, specialization can really come in the form of the methodology as well. The methodology we use in eminent domain is different than, a standard appraisal for, say, lending purposes. There's a lot of rules that we need to follow, and those rules can be different if it's the issue is related to a federal taking or a state taking. So we've got federal and state rules for sure. And so specialization really also comes down to understanding the appropriate rules to follow. So in California, we've got the Civil Code of the Code of Civil Procedure, excuse me, which outlines a number of those rules. You also have in that section the definition of fair market value. And so for eminent domain work, at least in California, a part of the definition of fair market value is highest price, as opposed to, say, most probable price in a different format. So we're really, as experts, really needing to understand what the rules are in the jurisdiction you're working in.
I
Okay.
would say that there are two distinct categories in appraisals for right of way and eminent domain purposes. One is at the acquisition level. There's an agency that needs a new bridge or a new road, and so an appraisal will be done to estimate what the value of those rights being acquired are. The next level, if the property owner just so happens to disagree with that opinion, and a condemnation action is filed and it goes through the eminent domain process, then the events start all over again, where there is an appraisal for the agency side that may or may not go to trial. There's an appraisal for the property owner. In essence, there are at least three appraisals that can be done for a particular process. And so having specialty at the acquisition level, knowing what the rules are, having expertise at that second level where there's testimony taken, real understanding of the case law, like what Matt was referring to, is needed. A couple of different nuances that make it different from appraisal work for lending purposes or estate and tax or other different realms.
Fantastic. Okay. So lots of things to consider. It sounds like we know the appraisal sector in general has a lot of rules, but even more apply within eminent domain, and they can vary state by state, or if it's a state versus federal engagement. And then, as I understand it, as you were speaking to, Eric, once you get into the litigation piece, if you can't reach agreement, then that's like a whole new ballgame,
Certainly.
correct?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the times, the parties can come together and come to an agreement about the value of those rights being acquired. But there are some instances where, depending on the methodology used or the data considered, the value opinions can be millions of dollars apart. I've seen instances where one side is at 4 million and the other side is at 100 million. And it comes down to a couple of different things. But just understanding that methodology, what rules are in place, what jurisdiction you're in. What Matt alluded to is there are certain rules depending on appraising property at the federal level versus in your individual state. Just having that knowledge and expertise is critical when you're doing this type of work.